spring of 1925. The Eiffel Tower, the city's pride, a glittering iron giant rising above the rooftops, is about to change hands. Not because the French government decided to sell it, and not because war has torn it down. No, this is different. The buyer is a wealthy scrap metal dealer. The seller? A man with no legal authority, no ownership papers, and not even the faintest intention of delivering what he promises. This is the story of Victor Lustig, perhaps the greatest con man in history, a man who could look you in the eye, tell you the moon was for sale, and leave you wondering if you could afford it. His most famous feat? Selling the Eiffel Tower, not once, but twice. The 1920s were a strange time in Europe. The Great War was over, but its scars were fresh. Paris, like much of the continent, was still rebuilding. And yet, the city seemed determined to dance through the pain. Jazz clubs pulsed with music. Painters, writers, and dreamers filled smoky cafes. Wealthy tourists drifted down the Seine on moonlit boat rides. The Eiffel Tower, still relatively young at 36 years old, was both a symbol of modernity and a point of controversy. Many Parisians adored it. Others thought it was an ugly, rusting reminder of a bygone fair. Maintaining such a massive structure cost the city a fortune, and rumors swirled that someday it might have to be dismantled. And it was in this glittering, restless city that Victor Lustig found his perfect stage, a place where appearances mattered, where charm could pass for honesty, and where a clever man could vanish into the crowd after pulling off the impossible. Victor Lustig was born in 1890 in Hostine, a small town in what is now the Czech Republic. As a boy, he showed two gifts, a quick mind and an eye for opportunity. He learned languages effortlessly, picking up French, German, English, and Italian. But perhaps his greatest education came not from books, but from watching how people behaved. By his early 20s, Lustig had drifted into the glamorous but dangerous world of gambling ships and European luxury travel. He was always immaculately dressed, always polite, and always watching. Every gambler knew him as the Count, a title he invented to give himself an air of nobility. He was not above running small-time scams, but he played the long game, studying his marks, making them feel special, until they trusted him completely. One of his early masterpieces was the Romanian money box scam, a wooden contraption that looked like a complex machine, supposedly able to duplicate banknotes using a chemical process. Victims would feed it a real bill and watch in awe as it produced an identical one. Of course, Lustig had simply hidden real banknotes inside. By the time the victims discovered the trick, Lustig was gone, leaving them with nothing but an expensive box and a bruised ego. In May 1925, Lustig's eyes fell on a small newspaper article that would change his life. It mentioned that the Eiffel Tower, built for the 1889 World's Fair, was in disrepair and costly to maintain. Some city officials, the article claimed, were debating whether to tear it down entirely. For most readers, it was trivia. For Lustig, it was the seed of a masterpiece. He had government stationery forged and assumed the identity of a deputy director in the French Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. He wrote letters to 6 of Paris's most prominent scrap metal dealers, inviting them to a confidential meeting at the luxurious Hôtel de Crillon. Imagine the scene. 6 businessmen seated in a gilded salon overlooking the Place de la Concorde. Lustig arrives in a perfectly tailored suit, apologizing for the secrecy. He explains that the government has decided to quietly sell the Eiffel Tower for scrap, but the public mustn't know until the deal is done. The tower, he says, is an embarrassment to the city, a relic of an outdated fair, and a drain on the budget. He speaks with such confidence, such official gravity, that the dealers never question his authority. They are told to submit sealed bids, with the understanding that speed and discretion will be rewarded. One man, André Poisson, is particularly eager. New to the scrap business, desperate to prove himself, Poisson sees this as his ticket to the big leagues. Lustig senses the hunger and uses it. In private, he tells Poisson there are other interested parties, but that he could help secure the deal for a small consideration. Poisson pays. Lustig pockets the bribe, accepts Poisson's bid, and within 48 hours, he is on a train to Vienna, carrying a suitcase stuffed with francs. Days later, Poisson realizes the truth, but shame is a powerful silencer. He never goes to the police. France was now dangerous for Lustig, but across the Atlantic lay a land of opportunity, the United States. He arrived in New York with European sophistication, impeccable manners, and a list of scams ready to adapt to American greed. Wall Street brokers, Midwestern bankers, wealthy widows, all became his targets. He even conned the most dangerous man in Chicago, Al Capone. Lustig borrowed $5,000 from Capone, promising a double return within 2 months. When the time came, he returned the money untouched, claiming the deal had fallen through. Capone, impressed by his honesty, gave him $1,000 for his trouble. Lustig had played him perfectly, earning both profit and the trust of a crime boss. Most criminals would retire after such a stunt, but in 1926, Lustig returned to Paris and ran the Eiffel Tower scam all over again. This time, his chosen victim grew suspicious and went to the police. By the time authorities investigated, Lustig had vanished once more, slipping through Europe like smoke. By the early 1930s, Lustig had one last great enterprise, a counterfeiting ring producing flawless $100 bills. The Secret Service called his fake notes Lustig money, and they began appearing in cities across America. In 1935, they caught him. Even then, he escaped custody once, climbing out of a bathroom window at the federal courthouse. But his luck had limits. He was recaptured and sentenced to 20 years in Alcatraz. In March 1947, pneumonia claimed him. In his personal effects, agents found a handwritten list of the 10 commandments for con men. The first read, "Be a patient listener. It is this, not fast talking, that gets a con man his prey." Victor Lustig left no monuments, no wealth, no honest legacy, only stories. Stories that, to this day, make us question how easily we can be convinced when the lie is dressed in the right suit. The Eiffel Tower still stands over Paris, and somewhere in its shadow, the ghost of a man who sold it twice is still smiling.